The roar of the crowd was a living thing, a hungry beast that swallowed him whole, then spat him out, adrenaline-soaked and breathless. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, stood on stage, bathed in the blinding light, a sequined sentinel against a sea of adoring faces. He sang, he swayed, he poured his soul into every note, every hip shake, every magnetic glance. The energy was electric, a current that surged through the stadium, lifting him higher and higher until he felt he could touch the stars. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it was over. The lights dimmed, the cheers faded into a distant echo, and he was back in the quiet sanctuary of his dressing room. The air, thick with the scent of sweat and hairspray, felt heavy. He looked at his reflection in the mirror, not seeing the iconic superstar, but a man profoundly tired, yearning for something he couldn't quite name. Fame was a gilded cage, beautiful and suffocating. Every move was scrutinized, every word dissected. He couldn't walk down the street, grab a burger, or simply sit in a park without being mobbed. His life, once his own, now belonged to the world. He loved his fans, truly he did, but there was a deep ache for anonymity, for the mundane joys of an ordinary life. He missed the freedom of simply being a person, not a legend. This longing had festered for years, a quiet whisper in the back of his mind that grew louder with each passing day. He yearned for genuine connection, for conversations that weren't about record sales or movie deals, but about life, about dreams, about the simple human experience. He wanted to help people, not from the pedestal of his celebrity, but from the ground up, one person at a time. It was out of this yearning that Arthur King was born. Arthur King was everything Elvis wasn't, or rather, everything he couldn't be publicly. Arthur was a quiet man dressed in sensible, slightly rumpled tweed jackets and dark trousers. He wore thick-rimmed glasses that obscured his famous eyes, and a carefully cultivated mustache and beard hid the curve of his well-known jawline. His hair, usually an immaculate black pompadour, was now a neatly trimmed, slightly graying brown, parted conservatively. His voice, naturally a rich baritone, was softened, pitched a touch higher, less resonant. He walked with a deliberate, unhurried pace, his famous swagger replaced by a gentle amble. His first outing as Arthur King was a baptism by fire, a plunge into the unknown that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. He had carefully chosen a quiet morning, a weekday when the streets of Memphis wouldn't be swarming with tourists. He slipped out of Graceland through a lesser-used gate, his trusted security detail. Red and Sunny, looking on with a mixture of amusement and concern. They understood his need for this, though they worried about the risks. "You be careful, boss," Red had grumbled, adjusting his fedora. "Don't want no trouble." Elvis, now Arthur, had simply nodded, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. "Just going for a walk, Red. A very, very long walk." He drove a nondescript sedan, one he rarely used, away from the familiar gates, feeling a lightness he hadn't experienced in years. The air, crisp with the promise of autumn, felt different on his face without the usual security bubble around him. He drove aimlessly at first, then pulled into a quiet neighborhood cafe. He'd always wanted to visit but never could. He ordered a black coffee and a plain donut, sitting at a small table by the window. Clatter of ceramic cups, the low hum of conversation, the scent of freshly brewed coffee. It was all so wonderfully ordinary. No one stared, no one pointed, no one gasped. He was just a man in a cafe, lost in thought. He watched families interact, students studying, elderly couples sharing stories. He saw the subtle nuances of human connection, the small gestures of kindness and frustration that were the fabric of everyday life. It was captivating. He listened to snippets of conversation, a mother complaining about her child's grades, a couple planning a weekend trip, two friends debating a sports game. These were the sounds of real life, unfiltered and unscripted. A warmth spread through him, a feeling of deep peace. This was it. This was the freedom he craved. He could observe, he could exist, without the crushing weight of expectation. He wasn't the king here. He was just Arthur King, a curious, unassuming man exploring the world on his own terms. He finished his coffee, paid his bill, and walked out onto the sidewalk, a spring in his step that had nothing to do with the rhythm of rock and roll. He walked for hours, exploring streets he'd only ever seen from the tinted windows of a limousine, passed by small shops, old houses with blooming gardens and busy playgrounds. He saw the beauty in the mundane, the quiet dignity of a city going about its day. As the sun began to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Arthur King felt a profound sense of renewal. He had stepped outside his gilded cage, and for a few precious hours he had been free. This was more than just a disguise. It was an escape hatch, a way to reclaim a part of himself that fame had threatened to erase. He knew with a certainty that settled deep in his bones that this was only the beginning. His secret identity wasn't just for him, it was for the world too. He just didn't know yet how he would use it. Arthur King's outings quickly became a cherished ritual. 2 or 3 times a week he would shed the mantle of Elvis Presley and embrace the quiet anonymity of his alter ego. He'd drive to different parts of Memphis, always choosing areas where he was least likely to be recognized, where the rhythm of life beat a little slower, a little harder. He frequented small local diners, spent hours browsing in dusty old bookstores, or simply sat on park benches, observing the ebb and flow of daily life. He found immense satisfaction in these simple acts. The thrill of ordering his own food, the joy of being able to strike up a conversation with a stranger without a hidden agenda, the peace of watching children play without a phalanx of bodyguards around him. He noticed things he never had before. The way the sunlight caught the dust motes in an old hardware store, the distinct aroma of honeysuckle after a rain, the subtle expressions on people's faces as they went about their routines. He felt like a detective uncovering the hidden beauty of the world. One crisp Tuesday afternoon, Arthur King found himself wandering through a part of town he hadn't explored much before. It was an older neighborhood, the houses charming but showing their age, the streets lined with mature oak trees casting long shadows. He heard the faint strumming of a guitar, and a voice young and clear drifting from an alleyway between a laundromat and a convenience store. His musician's ear, finely tuned to the nuances of sound, immediately recognized something special. The voice was raw, untutored, but possessed a natural vibrato and a powerful emotional resonance. It was a blues song, old and soulful, sung with a depth that belied the singer's probable youth. He paused, hidden by a parked delivery truck, drawn in by the purity of the sound. Peeking around the corner, he saw her. She was a girl no older than 15 or 16, perched on an overturned milk crate. Her guitar, a battered acoustic with more scratches than paint, looked almost too big for her slight frame. Her clothes were simple worn jeans and a faded t-shirt, and her hair, a cascade of dark waves, fell across her face as she bent over the instrument. A small open guitar case lay before her, containing only a few scattered coins. She finished the song, her voice trailing off on a melancholic note. She didn't look up immediately, lost in the echo of her own music. Then, with a sigh, she began to strum another chord, a slow, bluesy riff. She closed her eyes, her brow furrowed in concentration, her fingers moving with surprising dexterity over the worn strings. Arthur King felt a pang of recognition, a connection across time and circumstance. He remembered himself at that age, practicing for hours in his humble home, dreaming of a stage far beyond Tupelo. He understood the hunger, the burning need to create music, the quiet desperation that often accompanied such talent in the face of hardship. He watched her for a long moment, unseen. He noticed the way her shoulders slumped when a passerby hurried by without a glance, the way her eyes, when she did open them, held a flicker of hope, mingled with weariness. He saw the worn soles of her sneakers, the slight tremble in her hands as she navigated a particularly difficult chord. This wasn't just a casual hobby. This was her passion, perhaps her lifeline. He wanted to approach her, to offer a kind word, a dollar. Anything but his instinct for secrecy held him back. He didn't want to draw attention to himself, to break the fragile bubble of her creative space. He simply observed, absorbing her presence, her talent, her silent struggle. Finally, a woman emerged from the laundromat. A heavy basket of clothes balanced on her hip. She spotted the girl and her face softened. "Lily, you still out here, honey? Your mama's got dinner on the table, Lily." A pretty name. The girl nodded carefully, placing her guitar back in its case. She didn't have much, but she treated that worn instrument with the reverence of a priceless back. She picked up her case, the few coins rattling inside, and walked away with her mother disappearing around the corner. Arthur King remained hidden until they were well out of sight. He felt a peculiar mix of emotions: admiration for Lily's talent, empathy for her circumstances, and a burgeoning sense of purpose. He had found someone who, like him, carried music in her soul, but whose path was far rougher. He pulled a crisp $100 bill from his wallet, something he rarely carried as Arthur King but kept for emergencies. Considered leaving it in the alley, but it felt too impersonal, too much like charity. He wanted to help, but not just with money. He wanted to connect. He wanted to be a catalyst, an unseen hand guiding her towards her potential. Walking back to his car, Arthur King's mind was racing. He had an idea, a nascent plan forming. He didn't know how yet, but he was going to find a way to help Lily. He wouldn't be Elvis Presley, the famous benefactor. He would be Arthur King, the quiet observer, the curious stranger who just happened to believe in the power of music and the resilience of the human spirit. He would be her unseen patron, a guardian angel in sensible tweed. This encounter had given his secret identity a new profound meaning. The image of Lily, hunched over her worn guitar, haunted Arthur King. Her raw talent, her quiet determination despite her meager earnings, resonated deeply within him. He spent the next few days brainstorming, sketching out various scenarios. How could he approach her, offer assistance without being intrusive or worse, making her feel like a charity case? He needed a believable pretext, a reason for a man like Arthur King to take an interest in a struggling young musician. He settled on the persona of a retired music history professor, someone with a deep appreciation for authentic talent and a desire to see it nurtured. It would allow him to offer advice, encouragement, and perhaps subtle material support, all under the guise of academic interest. A week later, Arthur King was back in the same neighborhood. He timed his visit to coincide with the probable end of the school day, knowing Lily might be back in her alleyway spot. He brought with him a vintage but well-maintained guitar methods, book the kind an old professor might own. Sure enough, as he rounded the corner, there she was seated on her milk crate, strumming a mournful chord. She looked tired, but her focus on the music was unwavering. He waited for a break in her playing, then with a gentle cough stepped into the alley. Lily startled, her head snapping up, her eyes wide with a mixture of surprise and slight apprehension. "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Am I in your way?" Arthur King offered a warm, reassuring smile. "Not at all. Young lady, please don't stop on my account. I was simply drawn in by your music. It's quite captivating." He made sure his voice was soft, his demeanor non-threatening. Lily, still wary, murmured, "Thank you, sir." She clutched her guitar a little tighter. "My name is Arthur King," he continued, extending a hand. "I'm a retired professor of music history. I specialize in American blues and folk music. And what I just heard, well, it has the authentic soul of the Delta." Lily's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of pride replacing the apprehension. She hesitantly shook his hand. "I'm Lily. And this is I just play." "Just play?" Arthur King chuckled softly. "My dear, you have a gift, a rare gift. Where did you learn to play like that?" "My grandpa," Lily replied, her gaze softening. "He taught me. He loved the blues, said it was the music of the soul." "Indeed it is," Arthur King agreed, his heart swelling. "Your grandpa sounds like a wise man, and he taught you well." He gestured to her battered guitar. "That's a fine old instrument, but it looks like it's seen better days." Lily nodded, a hint of sadness in her eyes. Was his mama. Can't afford a new one. This one sometimes has a buzzing string and the action's a bit high. I see, Arthur King said, feigning a thoughtful hum. Well, for someone with your talent, you deserve an instrument that truly sings for you. Tell me, Lily, do you take lessons? No, sir. Can't afford those either. I just listen to old records and try to figure things out. Remarkable, he praised, genuinely impressed. Pure talent. You know, I occasionally volunteer my time, offering informal guidance to aspiring musicians. No charge, of course, just for the love of music, and to ensure that true artistry isn't lost to circumstance. He held up the book. I have some old methods and exercises that might help refine your technique, give you a little more versatility. Lily looked from the book to his kind face, a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. Really, sir? You'd do that? Absolutely, Arthur King affirmed, his smile widening. Perhaps once a week we could meet here, or perhaps at the local library if that's more comfortable for you. Here is fine, Lily said quickly, a genuine smile breaking through her apprehension. Thank you, Mr. King. That would be wonderful. Excellent, he replied, feeling a quiet triumph. Now tell me, what inspires your music, Lily? What stories do you want to tell? They talked for nearly an hour. Lily, initially shy, gradually opened up. She spoke of her mother Clara, who worked tirelessly as a seamstress to keep their small family afloat. She spoke of their struggles since her father had passed away, leaving them with mounting bills and a crumbling house. She spoke of her dream, to be a musician, to honor her grandpa's memory, to make enough money to take care of her mama. Arthur King listened, truly listened. He felt a deep surge of empathy. This was exactly what he longed for, to connect with real people, to understand their struggles, to find a way to offer genuine help. He didn't just hear her words. He felt the weight of her responsibilities, the fierce love she had for her family, the raw passion for her music. As he walked away, promising to return the following week, a plan began to solidify in his mind. He would not just offer music lessons. He would find a way to lighten the burden on Lily and her family, to give her the space and freedom to pursue her talent. He would be the unseen hand, the quiet force that helped to shift the tide. He knew it would require discretion, ingenuity, and a little bit of Arthur King magic. But he was ready. His secret identity now had a profound purpose. The weekly lessons with Arthur King became the highlight of Lily's week. He never treated her like a student, but rather like a fellow musician, albeit one with decades more experience. He listened patiently as she stumbled through new chords, offered gentle corrections, and encouraged her to experiment. He shared anecdotes about famous blues musicians, stories that captivated her and deepened her understanding of the music she loved. Arthur King, for his part, found immense joy in these sessions. He wasn't performing for adoring crowds. He was connecting with one bright, talented soul. He saw the spark in Lily's eyes when she mastered a difficult riff, the proud smile when he praised her heartfelt singing. He shared his vast, innate knowledge of music, honed over a lifetime of listening, composing, and performing, always attributing it to his extensive research as a professor. One afternoon, during a break in their impromptu lesson, Lily confessed, "Mr. King, sometimes it's hard to practice. The house is small and Mama works late, and the little ones are always running around." Arthur King nodded thoughtfully. "I understand completely, Lily. A musician needs their quiet space, a place where the notes can truly sing, an idea spark. You know, I happen to know of a small community center nearby. They have a quiet room, rarely used, with a decent piano and some excellent acoustics. I could arrange for you to have access, perhaps for a few hours each week. Think of it as a research grant for your musical development." Lily's face lit up. "Oh, Mr. King, that would be amazing. Thank you, thank you." Within days, Arthur King through a carefully orchestrated series of anonymous phone calls and donations made through a shell corporation, arranged for Lily to have a key to the community center's music room. He even made sure a decent, if unassuming, acoustic guitar was left there, claiming it was donated by a generous but anonymous patron. It was one of his own lesser-used guitars, cleaned up and restrung, a far superior instrument to Lily's battered one. "It's just a loan," he told her, observing her awe at the instrument's rich tone. "For your research, of course." As their bond deepened, Arthur King also began to subtly assess the family's needs. He'd casually bring up topics like home repairs or health. During conversations with Lily, piecing together a fuller picture of their struggles, he learned that Lily's mother, Clara, worked long hours, but barely made enough to cover rent and groceries. The house they lived in was old and drafty, with a leaky roof and an ancient furnace that often broke down. Lily's younger brother, 6-year-old Tommy, suffered from chronic asthma, and his medication was a constant drain on their meager finances. One chilly evening, Arthur King happened to pass by their house. He saw Clara struggling with a pile of firewood, her shoulders hunched against the biting wind. He also noticed the worn-out steps, the peeling paint, and a clearly patched-up hole in the roof. The next day, Arthur King made several phone calls from a payphone across town. He anonymously contacted a reputable local contractor, commissioning them to perform urgent, community-funded repairs on the house, emphasizing discretion and speed. He made sure the contractor was paid handsomely in cash from a separate, untraceable account. A week later, Clara found a notice tacked to her door. "Community home. Improvement project. Your home has been selected for essential repairs. Fully funded by an anonymous donor committed to neighborhood revitalization." Clara was bewildered. Then, Lily, seeing her mother's tearful relief, felt a surge of hope she hadn't experienced in years. Contractor and his crew arrived promptly, working efficiently and politely. The roof was fixed, the furnace replaced, the windows sealed, and the exterior painted a fresh, warm yellow. The house felt warmer, safer, a true home again. "Mama, do you think it's Mr. King?" Lily whispered to her mother one evening after marveling at the newly painted living room. Clara shook her head, a thoughtful frown on her face. "I don't know, honey. He's a kind man, but this is a lot. He just seems like a quiet professor." Arthur King heard about the family's reactions during his next lesson with Lily. She bubbled over with excitement and gratitude, attributing the miracle to just good luck. He simply smiled, his eyes twinkling. "Sometimes, Lily," he said, "kindness has a way of finding those who deserve it most. Perhaps your music is reaching more ears than you think." He felt a deep satisfaction. He wasn't just helping them. He was witnessing their quiet strength, their resilience. He wasn't just giving them money, he was giving them hope. The space to breathe, the chance to dream. He was planting seeds of kindness and watching them blossom into something beautiful. This was far more rewarding than any sold-out concert. He was, in his own quiet way, truly making a difference. As the weeks turned into months, Arthur King continued his benevolent anonymous interventions. He became a master of the unseen hand, orchestrating positive changes in Lily's life and her family's fortunes without ever taking direct credit. The community center room became Lily's sanctuary. She practiced for hours, her skills growing exponentially with Arthur King's guidance and the superior instrument he had provided. He would occasionally bring in old Kaimon records, rare blues, and gospel albums from his personal collection, which were in fact priceless originals from his own vaults. He taught her about phrasing, emotional delivery, and improvisation. He encouraged her to start writing her own songs, urging her to pour her life experiences, her joys and sorrows into her music. Lily's mother, Clara, still worked tirelessly, but Arthur King found a way to subtly ease her burden. He discovered a local grant for single mothers pursuing further education, a grant he had meticulously set up and funded under a different, equally untraceable alias. Clara, with Lily's encouragement, enrolled in a night course to become a certified bookkeeper, a dream she'd long deferred. The tuition was paid, her books provided, and even a stipend for childcare, which covered Tommy's after-school care, mysteriously appeared. "It's just amazing, Mr. King," Lily told him one day, her eyes shining. "Mama says she feels like a weight has been lifted. She's studying so hard, and she's actually happy about going to school. And Tommy, his breathing has been so much better since we got that new furnace." Arthur King smiled, a deep warmth spreading through his chest. "That's wonderful, Lily. Sometimes a little bit of good fortune is all it takes to turn the tide. And your mother, she sounds like a remarkably strong woman. She deserves all the good things coming her way." He also wanted to give Lily a more significant opportunity, something that would truly showcase her burgeoning talent beyond the quiet confines of their lessons. He subtly reached out to a small independent music club in a quieter part of town, one known for featuring up-and-coming local artists. Using yet another anonymous contact, he recommended a new talent, a young singer, Doker, named Lily Thompson, whose raw blues sound was truly something special. He even offered to cover the club's new artist promotion fees, ensuring Lily would get a proper chance. The club owner, intrigued by the mysterious benefactor and the glowing recommendation, contacted Lily. She was hesitant, at first terrified of performing for strangers, but Arthur King encouraged her gently. "Think of it as sharing your story, Lily. Your music deserves to be heard. It's not about fame, it's about connection." The night of Lily's first performance was a quiet triumph for Arthur King. He arrived early, unobtrusively taking a corner table, his tweed jacket and glasses providing perfect camouflage. The club was small, intimate, with soft lighting and a respectful audience. When Lily stepped onto the tiny stage, her hands trembling slightly, a hush fell over the room. She started with one of her grandpa's old blues numbers, her voice clear and resonant, filling the space. Then she launched into one of her own compositions, a poignant ballad about perseverance and hope. Arthur King watched, his heart swelling with pride. He saw the transformation in her, from shy girl to confident performer. The audience was captivated. When she finished, the applause was genuine and heartfelt. He stayed long enough to see her receive warm congratulations from the club owner and a few audience members, then slipped out unnoticed. He knew he couldn't congratulate her directly tonight. It would raise too many questions. But the satisfaction of watching her soar, knowing he had played a part, was profound. The next day, Lily called him, her voice brimming with excitement. "Mr. King, it was amazing. I can't believe it. People actually liked my music. They said they wanted me to come back next week. I told you your music would find its audience." "Lily," Arthur King said, his voice warm with genuine pleasure, "you just needed the right stage. And you gave it to me," she said softly. "You've given us so much, Mr. King. The house mama's schooling, my guitar. I don't know how we'll ever repay you." Arthur King chuckled lightly. "My dear, the repayment is in seeing you flourish, in seeing your mother thrive, in knowing that kindness can make a real difference. That's more than enough for me." He was careful not to reveal too much, always maintaining the persona of the benevolent, slightly eccentric retired professor. But even as he maintained his secrecy, he felt the true reward of his work. He was no longer just the king of rock and roll. He was Arthur King, a quiet force for good, shaping lives, one hidden act of kindness at a time. He was creating a kingdom of kindness, and he was its unseen ruler. Lily's performances at the local club gained her a small but loyal following. Her confidence blossomed, and her original songs, born of her struggles and her hopes, resonated deeply with her audiences. She was still busking occasionally, but now her guitar case often contained more than just a few coins. She saved every dollar, dreaming of a better future for her family. Despite the wonderful changes, a growing curiosity about Arthur King began to simmer in Lily and her mother. Clara, he was so kind, so generous, yet so elusive. He never spoke about his past, avoided personal questions, and always met them in public places, never inviting them to his home. He had an air of quiet sophistication, and his old clothes, though seemingly modest, had a subtle quality that spoke of expense. "Mummer," Lily mused one evening as they ate dinner in their newly painted kitchen. "Mr. King always knows so much about everything, not just music, but everything. He talks about places like he's been everywhere, and he just knows things." Clara nodded, stirring her tea. "I've noticed that too, honey. And those old records he lends you, they're practically mint condition. And the way he talks about music, it's not just academic, it's like he lived it." Their suspicions grew after a particularly powerful lesson. Arthur King had been demonstrating a complex blues lick on Lily's borrowed guitar, his fingers flying over the fretboard with an effortless mastery that went far beyond that of a retired professor. Lost in the music, he had hummed a familiar melody, a snatch of an old gospel song that Elvis himself had often sung. Lily, a devout fan of his early work, caught the distinct phrasing, the specific vocal nuance. Her heart fluttered. Could it be? "No, it's crazy. It's impossible." Later that day, as Arthur King was leaving, a small polished guitar pick slipped from his tweed jacket pocket. It was a custom pick made of a dark, almost iridescent material with a tiny, almost imperceptible EP engraved on one side. He didn't notice it fall. Lily did. She picked it up, her fingers tracing the faint initials. "EP," she murmured, a sudden chill running down her spine. The hummed melody, the effortless skill, the deep, knowing eyes behind the glasses, it all clicked into place with a terrifying, exhilarating clarity. When Arthur King returned for their next lesson, Lily found herself studying him with new eyes. The way he moved, the way he carried himself, even the way he subtly adjusted his glasses. It all seemed so familiar now. The disguise once so effective now seemed like a thin veil. "Mr. King," she began tentatively, holding out the guitar pick, "you dropped this last time." Arthur King's eyes widened almost imperceptibly behind his lenses. He took the pick, his usual composure wavering for a split second. "Ah, yes. My apologies, Lily. It's an old one. A memento from a musician friend. He was quite talented." He quickly tucked it away, perhaps a little too quickly. "He must have been," Lily said, her voice even, though her pulse hammered in her ears. "I noticed the initials." Arthur King cleared his throat. "Yes. Well, a private joke amongst musicians, you understand." He quickly changed the subject, launching into a discussion about new chord progressions, his tone a little more brisk than usual. Lily felt a wave of conflicting emotions, disbelief and a profound sense of responsibility. If her wild theory was true, then Arthur King was the king, and he had chosen to live a secret life, helping her family, asking for nothing in return. It explained everything. The vast resources, the deep knowledge, the need for anonymity. She told her mother, showing her the pick, recounting the specific hummed melody, the almost uncanny resemblance in his mannerisms when he was truly lost in the music. Clara, initially skeptical, grew wide-eyed as Lily laid out the evidence. "Oh, my lord," Clara whispered, covering her mouth with her hand. "The king, here, helping us." The weight of the secret, their shared secret, settled heavily between them. They understood now why he was so private, why he insisted on discretion. His celebrity was a burden, a gilded cage, and he was using this disguise to taste freedom, to do good in the world. Without the fanfare, they respected his need for anonymity, but still the question lingered. Would he ever truly reveal himself? And how could they ever thank him adequately for such monumental kindness, knowing the true identity of their mysterious benefactor? Their gratitude deepened, tinged with a silent reverence for the man who was both a legend and in their lives, a quiet, humble friend. The truth hovered a silent, profound understanding between them. Lily's burgeoning reputation at the local club led to a bigger opportunity, an invitation to perform at the annual Memphis Community Music Festival. It was a significant step, a chance to play for a larger audience, to share her original songs on a more prominent stage. Arthur King, of course, had subtly arranged the invitation, pulling strings through yet another anonymous contact, who happened to hear of a remarkable young talent. The day of the festival dawned bright and warm. Lily was a bundle of nerves and excitement. Her mother Clara and little Tommy were there, beaming with pride, seated close to the stage. Arthur King arrived unobtrusively, as always, finding a seat towards the back, nestled among a sparse tree line, his presence blending into the background. When Lily's name was called, a hush fell over the audience. She walked onto the stage, her worn guitar slung over her shoulder, a shy but determined smile on her face. She took a deep breath, scanning the crowd, her eyes lingering for a moment on the spot where she knew Arthur King would be, even if she couldn't quite see him. She started with a new song, one she had written after the house repairs, a heartfelt ode to hope and unexpected kindness. Her voice soared clear and strong, filled with the emotion of her journey. The lyrics spoke of overcoming hardship, of the warmth of a new home, of a guiding light in the darkness. Arthur King listened, his eyes closed for a moment, a profound sense of pride swelling within him. Her music was truly beautiful, a testament to her resilience and the subtle impact he had made. Then, for her final song, she made an unexpected choice. She announced, "This next one is for someone very special, someone who taught me that true music comes from the heart, and that kindness can change everything." She looked directly towards the back, her gaze unwavering. And though she couldn't see him clearly, Arthur King felt the warmth of her acknowledgement. She began to strum the opening chords, and Arthur King's breath hitched. It was a gospel hymn, a song his mother had loved, a song he had sung countless times in church as a boy, a song that had formed the very bedrock of his own musical soul. It was Amazing Grace. But Lily wasn't just singing the words, she was pouring her entire being into it, infusing it with the bluesy inflection he had taught her, yet making it entirely her own. Her voice, raw and pure, filled the festival grounds, touching hearts, reaching into the deepest corners of memory. He felt a lump form in his throat, tears perking at his eyes. This was the most genuine, most heartfelt performance he had ever witnessed. More authentic than any of his own stadium shows. As she sang the line, "I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see," her eyes, full of unspoken gratitude, met his across the distance. In that moment, the disguise, the anonymity, the entire elaborate charade seemed to melt away. He was not Arthur King. He was simply a man, deeply moved, deeply connected, sharing a profound human experience with another soul through the universal language of music. When she finished, the applause was thunderous, a standing ovation from the entire festival crowd. Lily, overwhelmed, bowed deeply, then hurried off stage to a waiting Clara and Tommy, who enveloped her in triumphant hugs. Arthur King, still shaken by the emotional intensity of the moment, slowly rose from his seat. He knew he couldn't approach her now. The crowd around her was too thick, the moment too public. He needed to slip away, to process the depth of her gratitude, the silent message in her song. As he turned to leave, his hand brushed against his jacket pocket. He felt a small, familiar object. He pulled it out reflexively. It was his good luck charm, a small silver-plated miniature guitar, an exact replica of the Gibson J200 he often played. It was a custom piece, one of a kind given to him by a fan years ago. He often fiddled with it when he was nervous or deep in thought. It was something he had almost never let out of his sight. In his emotional state, he hadn't realized. It had slipped out of his inner pocket. He looked down at it, then back at the stage where Lily had just performed her heart out. He hesitated for only a second, then with a profound sense of destiny, he carefully placed the miniature guitar on the empty seat beside him. It lay there glinting in the afternoon sun, an unmistakable clue, a silent, powerful confession. He walked away, leaving the miniature guitar behind, a quiet tremor of anticipation running through him. He knew Lily would find it. He knew she would understand the time for half-truths was drawing to a close. After the festival, the miniature guitar sat on the seat like a beacon catching the sun. Clara, still buzzing from Lily's incredible performance, was gathering their things when she saw it. "Lily, look! Someone left this beautiful little guitar." Lily, still flushed with excitement, walked over. Her eyes widened as she saw the intricate details, the silver gleam. It wasn't a toy. It was a meticulously crafted replica. And then she saw the tiny, almost invisible engraving on the back. EPTCB. Her breath hitched. TCB, taking care of business. It was Elvis Presley's personal motto, his iconic lightning bolt logo. She remembered the custom guitar pick, the hummed melody, the way Arthur King played. All the pieces, scattered like jigsaw puzzle parts, snapped into place with a resounding click. The truth, now undeniable, hit her with the force of a tidal wave. She showed it to Clara, her hands trembling. Clara's jaw dropped. "Oh my God," she whispered, her eyes wide with shock and awe. "It really is him, isn't it, Arthur King? He's Elvis Presley." A silence fell between them, heavy with the weight of the revelation. It wasn't just a discovery. It was a profound shift in their understanding of everything that had happened. The house, Clara's schooling, Lily's guitar, the music lessons, the club opportunity, the festival invitation, all of it orchestrated by a man who was quite literally a king. They went home, the miniature guitar carefully wrapped, their minds reeling. How could they ever thank him? How could they face him knowing this incredible secret? The next few days were a blur of whispered conversations and stunned disbelief. They felt a deep respect for his desire for anonymity, for his humility in choosing to help them this way. But they also felt a need to acknowledge the truth, to express the depth of their gratitude. When Arthur King called to schedule their next lesson, Lily's voice was steady, though her heart hammered against her ribs. "Mr. King," she began, "there's something we need to talk about, something important." Arthur King paused. He knew this moment was coming. Could hear the tremor in her voice, the quiet determination. "Of course, Lily, is everything all right?" "Yes," she said, "everything is more than all right. But we found something at the festival, something you left behind." A sigh escaped Arthur King's lips, a sound of both resignation and relief. "Ah, I see, the little guitar." "Yes," Lily confirmed. "And what it means," he suggested. "They meet at the community center, a neutral private space." When Lily and Clara arrived, Arthur King was already there, seated at the piano, his fingers idly tracing the keys. He looked up, his face calm but with a hint of vulnerability in his eyes. Lily laid the miniature guitar gently on the piano. "Mr. King," she said, her voice soft but firm, "this has EPTCB engraved on it, and when I sang Amazing Grace at the festival, I remembered the way you hummed it once. It was unmistakable." Clara, her voice thick with emotion, added, "We figured it out, Mr. King. We know who you are." Arthur King closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them, a profound sadness mingling with a quiet resolve. He removed his glasses, revealing the famously intense blue eyes that had captivated millions. Without the glasses and the beard, the resemblance, though still softened by the conservative haircut, was undeniable. The king was for the first time truly exposed to them. "You're right," he said, his voice deeper, now richer, stripped of its gentle professor affectation. "My name is Elvis Presley." Lily and Clara simply stared, tears welling in their eyes, the magnitude his gaze direct and earnest. "I know this must be a shock, and I apologize for the deception, but I needed it. I needed a way to be just a man, to walk among people without the crowds, without the expectations, to connect with genuine souls, to offer help without it cameras." He paused, looking from Lily to Clara, his eyes pleading for understanding. Fame is a lonely thing, ladies. It builds walls around you. I miss the simple things, a quiet conversation, a shared laugh, the chance to simply be kind, without being Elvis. I never wanted anything in return, he emphasized, his voice soft. Only the satisfaction of helping and the peace of being myself, even if it was a version of myself few ever see. Mr. Presley, no, Arthur, you gave us our lives back, our home, Mama's dream, my music. You didn't just help us, you saved us, and you did it out of pure kindness, from your heart. Clara, wiping her own tears, nodded vigorously. We never understood why you were so good to us. Now we do, and we respect your secret more than words can say. Arthur King. Or rather, Elvis felt a surge of relief, a loosening of the tight knot in his chest. They didn't see him as a celebrity, but as the benevolent, quiet man who had become their friend. The truth was out, not to the world, but to the people who mattered most. And in their understanding, he found a deeper peace than he had ever known. The air in the community center music room was thick with unspoken emotions. Elvis, having shed the pretense of Arthur King, sat before them, his famous blue eyes vulnerable, yet steady. Lily and Clara, still processing the shock, felt a wave of profound empathy wash over them. I know this is a lot to take in, Elvis said, his voice soft, and I understand if it changes things. If you feel betrayed by the deception. Lily shook her head vehemently. Never. Arthur never betrayed, just overwhelmed, and even more grateful. She picked up the miniature guitar, turning it over in her hands. It just makes everything you did even more incredible. To have so much and yet to care so deeply about strangers, to give so much without wanting any recognition. Clara, reaching out to gently touch his arm, her eyes full of warmth, said, "It makes perfect sense. Honey, the fame, the crowds, the lack of privacy. Anyone would yearn for a quiet life sometimes. You didn't just give us money, Arthur. You gave us your time, your kindness, your genuine care." Elvis felt a profound sense of relief, a loosening of the knot that had lived in his stomach for years. They didn't recoil. They understood. They saw him, not the image. "It's true," he confessed, leaning forward, his voice a low, confiding tone. "The chance to just be a person in the world, making a difference on a small personal scale." He spoke of the loneliness of constant adulation, the pressure to always be on, the impossibility of genuine friendships when every interaction was filtered through the lens of celebrity. He explained how Arthur King was his sanctuary, his way of reconnecting with the real world, with the authentic struggles and triumphs of everyday people. "I long to help, truly help, without it being a publicity stunt," he continued. "You gave me the genuine connection I so desperately craved." Lily, tears still in her eyes, nodded. "You gave us the chance to live again, to dream again. My music, it's because of you. Mama's future, it's because of you. And your secret," Clara added. "It's safe with us. We understand why you need it. We'll always know you as Arthur King, our kind, wise friend." Elvis looked at them, his eyes shining. This was it. This was the true reward he sought. Not adoration, but true reward he sought. Not adoration, but true reward. He had found a small corner of the world where he could be himself, where his kindness was seen, true seen, for what it was, without the blinding light of celebrity. He took Lily's hand, and Clara's thick with emotion. "Thank you for accepting me, for understanding, and thank you for letting me be a part of your lives." He didn't make grand promises of future interventions or endless financial support. He didn't need to. They understood that his help would continue in his own quiet, discreet way, always as Arthur King, King of Rock and Roll, had found his genuine kingdom, not on a stage, but in the hearts of a small family, in Memphis who saw him not as a legend, but as a man of profound kindness. The silence that followed was not awkward, but profound. It was a silence filled with trust, with gratitude, with a deep, unwavering friendship forged in the crucible of truth and quiet benevolence. The half-truth, the secret of Arthur King, had led to a full heart for them all. Time, as it always does, marched on. Lily flourished, her music becoming her voice, her art, her lifeline. She continued performing at the local club, eventually earning enough to cut a small demo album, which Arthur King, still her mentor, still her friend, discreetly helped to fund and distribute to small, independent labels. She gained a quiet reputation as a soulful singer, joker, a voice that spoke of resilience and hope. Her dream, once a distant whisper, was becoming a tangible reality. Clara, too, thrived. She completed her bookkeeping certification with flying colors, securing a steady, well-paying job that finally lifted the family out of constant financial struggle. Their house, now warm and sturdy, was truly a home filled with laughter and the comforting aroma of Clara's cooking. Tommy, healthy and bright, adored his big sister Lily and often sang along to her songs. A tiny tuneful shadow, and Arthur King, he continued his quiet reign. His secret, their secret, remained sacred. Not a word was ever breathed, not a hint dropped to the world he was Elvis Presley. But in the quiet corners of Memphis, to a select few, he was Arthur King, the unassuming professor, the benevolent friend. He still visited Lily and her family. Their lessons evolved into simple, heartfelt. They'd share meals, talk about life, laugh, and sometimes Lily would play her new songs for him, her eyes still holding that special knowing glint that only he understood. He never offered direct financial aid again, for they no longer needed it in the same desperate way. Instead, he offered wisdom, encouragement, and the enduring gift of his presence. He continued his clandestine missions of kindness. Inspired by the profound impact he had on Lily and Clara, Arthur King sought out other individuals, other families, who needed a quiet hand, a subtle push towards a better life. He discovered struggling artists, overlooked students, elderly citizens in need of a little extra comfort. He funded anonymous scholarships, arranged for home repairs, provided discreet assistance, always remaining just out of reach, a benevolent shadow. He learned to be even more careful, more ingenious in his methods, ensuring his true identity was never exposed. He perfected the art of the unseen hand, the lucky break, the anonymous benefactor. He didn't crave thanks or recognition. The quiet satisfaction of seeing lives improve, of bringing a little light into someone's darkness, was reward enough. One crisp autumn afternoon, Arthur King was driving through a quiet, tree-lined street in Memphis. He saw Lily's house, newly painted, smoke curling lazily from the chimney, a bicycle leaning against the porch. He smiled a deep, contented smile. It was a picture of peace, of hard-won happiness. He knew intimately the journey that had led to that peace. Pulled his nondescript sedan over, watching. For a moment he saw Lily emerge, guitar in hand, heading off for a gig. She looked confident, purposeful. He knew she carried his lessons, his kindness in her heart, and in her music he drove on, feeling a profound sense of purpose. The roar of the crowd still echoed in his ears. Sometimes the demands of fame still pressed in. But now it was balanced by something deeper, something far more nourishing. He had found a way to use his unique position not for personal gain or public glory, but for quiet, good Elvis. Presley the King might belong to the world, but Arthur King, the humble, kind man, had created his own kingdom of kindness, one quiet act at a time. And in that secret realm, he was truly free, truly connected, and truly deeply fulfilled. He was no longer just the king of rock and roll. He was the king of his own heart, and that was the greatest kingdom of all. He drove on, a quiet smile on his face, ready for his next mission of unexpected grace.